They say love is blind. But for Tari, love was blind, broke, and wearing fake designer shoes. This is the story of how she gave 3 years to a man who gave his future to someone else. She paid his rent. He used her to survive. Then he married someone else in Dubai. To our returning viewers, welcome back. It's always a joy to have you here. And to you, my new friend, I'd truly love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Just drop your city or country in the comments. It warms my heart to see how far these stories reach. And if you haven't subscribed yet, kindly feel free to subscribe. There's so much more coming your way. Stories that inspire, surprise, and sometimes even heal. You won't want to miss what's next. Tari met him in a DM and dreams kind of way. Smooth voice notes, big ambitions, and that slightly too confident swagger. His name was John. No job, no car, but a vision board full of vague business ideas and crypto pitches that never quite made sense. To Tari, he was a project worth building. A man with potential. She believed she could be his safe space, his partner, his ride or die. Everyone warned her, friends, even her pastor, but she silenced the noise. Love, after all, was about belief. And she believed in him more than he believed in himself. He said he was between blessings. She laughed and offered to cover the Uber again. Their dates were candlelit, mostly because Nipa took the light, and they couldn't afford to fuel the gen. Still, she cooked. She cleaned. She encouraged. She stayed. Her love was constant. His life was chaos. But she called it purpose. She shared his hustle on her stories, reposted his motivational tweets, and smiled through borrowed suits at every event he begged her to fund. He just needs time, she told herself. But deep down, something already didn't feel right. For 3 years, she fed his dreams and starved her own. When your loyalty becomes your prison, what's the difference between love and delusion? Tari stopped dreaming out loud the day John called her ambition too masculine. She used to want to study abroad, launch her skincare line, maybe even start a podcast. But now, her voice dimmed, her spark quieted. Everything in her life began to orbit around him. His failed pitches, his big breaks that never came, and his eternal, almost moments. She sold her laptop to help him pay rent. She dipped into her savings for his startup capital. Each sacrifice felt like love, until it started to feel like debt she could never collect on. She told herself it was a phase. Every love story had its struggles, right? But even fairy tales had timelines. John didn't just take, he expected. She forgot the last time he asked about her day. She remembered clearly the time he told her she needed to believe in his greatness more. The irony, he couldn't even commit to showing up on time. Her friends faded one by one, tired of watching her disappear inside a man who only showed up when he needed something. But Tari? She stayed. Because women like her were taught that loyalty meant staying, even when no one stays for them. He could explain everything, except where the money went. Tari wasn't dating a man. She was funding a lifestyle without receipts. John had a master's degree in explanation. Every failed deal had a villain. Every missed rent payment had a story. Every bounce transfer, a bank glitch. And every time he disappointed her, he knew exactly what to say to make it feel like she was the one overreacting. "You don't understand hustle," he'd whisper, like that was a compliment. Meanwhile, her bank alerts told another story. She was overdrafting on both love and cash, always a transaction away from emotional bankruptcy. Tari began to notice patterns. Promises bloomed on Monday, excuses by Wednesday, silence by Saturday. By Sunday, he'd be in church, dancing like he hadn't drained her GPay the night before. But every time she wanted to walk away, he'd hold her face, call her queen, tell her she was different. And the scary part? She was different. Different from the women who would have left already. She'd become the one who stayed too long, believed too hard, gave too much for a man who gave just enough to keep her from leaving. She became the man in the relationship, not because she wanted to, but because someone had to be. By now, Tari had accepted her silent promotion from girlfriend to provider. She paid for his data, his clothes, his Uber rides to business meetings that never produced results. She fixed his CV. She built his website. She even begged her cousin to get him freelance gigs. And yet, he still found ways to act like he was doing her a favor by staying. Every conversation about finances turned into an attack on his masculinity. "So you think I'm useless?" he'd ask, right before borrowing her card again. She stopped asking questions. It was easier that way. The less she asked, the fewer lies she had to swallow. He slept in while she left for work. He spent hours networking in DMs while she stayed up fixing her boss's reports. Yet somehow, she was the one apologizing whenever things got tense. He weaponized her empathy, and she mistook that for compatibility. But every woman has a moment when her silence becomes resentment. And Tari was dangerously close. Love didn't blind her. It wore her down. Because when red flags become routine, heartbreak is a guarantee. The turning point wasn't a big fight. It was a small lie. A cab fare she didn't approve, charged to her card. When she confronted him, he called it a misunderstanding. But she knew better. She checked her bank app like a woman checking her pulse. And each alert was another reminder. She was being robbed in plain sight, emotionally and financially. John didn't even flinch. "You're overthinking," he mumbled, like her gut was just another thing he could gaslight. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay beside a man who hadn't kissed her forehead in weeks, but was still comfortable enough to snore through her anxiety. In the dark, she stared at the ceiling, calculating every naira, every yes she'd said when she wanted to say no, every boundary she had blurred in the name of love. She didn't cry. She didn't even feel angry. Just tired. And tired women don't scream. They detach. He didn't build a life with her. He built one off her. And by the time she realized, she was too invested to pull out. The realization hit slowly, like a leak in the ceiling, one drop at a time. John didn't love her, not in the way she loved him. He loved the security, the access, the safety net she became. With her, he could be broke and still feel important. He could fail and still be forgiven. She was his buffer between ambition and reality. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a sponsor with feelings. And the scariest part? He was comfortable in the chaos he created. Tari remembered a day. She came home from work, exhausted, only to find him shirtless on her couch, watching anime, eating the last thing in the fridge. "No, how was your day?" No offer to help. Just him complaining about how hard it was to focus because the gen had gone off. She stood there, still in her heels, her lunch untouched, her spirit crushed, and she finally saw it. She wasn't building a future with him. She was building him and losing herself in the process. She used to dream about marrying him. Now, she couldn't picture making it to next week. Tari started zoning out during conversations. Not just with John, but with everyone. Her co-workers noticed. Her friends stopped asking. She had given so much of herself to one man that her identity outside him had started to rot. One day, she found a selfie of them from 2 years ago. She was glowing, the type of glow you don't get from skincare, only from hope. That girl had believed in the future. This one, she was surviving the present. John hadn't changed. He was still promising one more pitch. Still using words like soon and almost. Still sleeping in while she fought through Lagos traffic. But something inside Tari had shifted. His words no longer sounded like possibilities. They sounded like background noise. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't even sad. She was quietly empty. And that emptiness, it was more dangerous than heartbreak. It meant she had started grieving a man who was still in her house. She wasn't snooping. The message just popped up and shattered everything she was clinging to. He left his phone on the bed. She wasn't looking for anything. She was just trying to move it so she could lay the duvet. But the notification flashed up too fast to ignore. Thanks for yesterday. Let's do it again soon. Tari froze. She didn't tap it. She didn't need to. The name was unfamiliar. The tone was obvious. Her chest didn't tighten, it hollowed. Because deep down she already knew. This was just confirmation that while she was busy saving him, someone else was enjoying the version of him she built. John came out of the bathroom, towel on his neck, laughing about something he saw online. Tari stared at him, not with rage, but with clarity. This wasn't a man who made a mistake. This was a man who didn't see her. Who probably never had. She smiled, nodded, even handed him his phone. But inside, something had snapped. The kind of snap that doesn't make noise. The kind that sets a woman free. Not every woman screams when she's hurt. Some just grow so silent, it's deafening. Tari didn't throw the phone. Didn't ask who she was. Didn't beg for an explanation. She just smiled and went on with her day. But inside, something irreversible had happened. A switch flipped. She stopped cooking. Stopped asking where he was. Stopped reminding him of interviews or sending job listings. She became polite. Detached. The kind of calm that only happens when you've already made your decision, and now you're just playing along until it's safe to leave. John didn't notice, not really. He mistook the silence for peace. Thought he'd won the argument that never happened. But he didn't realize Tari had entered a different phase, the exit phase. She started taking back pieces of herself in tiny, quiet ways. She took her salary out of their shared money point account, removed him as her emergency contact, began calling her mom again. She was peeling herself off of him, one layer at a time, and he couldn't feel a thing. She made herself so small for him. He forgot she could disappear. John had gotten comfortable in the dysfunction. He believed in the lie that Tari was too loyal to walk away. He'd seen her forgive things she should have left him for. Seen her cry and still cook dinner. Seen her broken but still choose him. So he assumed the pattern would hold. He assumed wrong. Because love isn't a license for laziness. And one thing about a woman who's healed while still hurting, when she goes, she never comes back the same. Tari began moving her essentials to work. Slowly, quietly. Just small things, jewelry, a few clothes, some documents. No one noticed. Not even him. She told herself she'd give it 2 more weeks. Not for him, but to plan her re-entry into a life that didn't revolve around damage control. And in those 2 weeks, she smiled more. Not because things were better, but because she had a secret now. She was leaving. And this time, he wouldn't see it coming. She always came back. Until the day she didn't. The day started normal. She kissed his forehead. Told him to rest well. Even joked about bringing back Suya. John barely looked up from his phone. Tari went to work, but this time, she didn't come back. No calls. No texts. Just absence. By 10 p.m., he was pacing. By midnight, he was calling her friends. By 2 a.m., he opened the wardrobe and realized half her things were gone. The rest? Carefully packed into a single box on the table, labeled simply, "Don't call." It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. Calculated. Kind even. There were no curse words. No accusations. Just silence. For the first time in 3 years, John had no one to blame, no one to guilt, no soft place to land. She had been his entire fallback plan, and now the safety net was gone. The apartment felt colder, the air heavier, and for once, he realized maybe she wasn't coming back. Healing hurts, but betrayal from the people you trusted? That shatters something permanent. A month later, Tari was learning how to smile again. Healing wasn't linear, but it was honest. She journaled, went to therapy, even started sleeping through the night. She hadn't spoken to John since she left, and she didn't plan to. Until one random night, while scrolling Instagram, she saw it. Her best friend, soft-launching John. A subtle post. Just his arm. But she knew that watch. That skin tone. That comfort. Her breath caught. This wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation. The friend who consoled her, cried with her, said men are scum, was now entertaining the man who wrecked her. Tari stared at the screen for a full minute. No tears, just stillness. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about principle. And suddenly, she realized something. John hadn't moved up. He just found someone else to leech off. And now, it wasn't her problem anymore. He left loyalty for luxury. Turns out, even money has standards. John had upgraded, at least on paper. The new girl had money, influence, and the kind of social media polish that made his life finally look aspirational. Dinners at fancy spots. Matching outfits. Soft lighting, fake captions. But behind closed doors, it was the same chaos, now with brighter wallpaper. He didn't change, just changed location. The laziness followed him. So did the entitlement. And within 3 months, the new girlfriend wasn't amused. She wanted a partner, not another dependent. She started making demands, real ones. Asked him about his 5-year plan. Gave him application deadlines. Brought up rent. John panicked. It was déjà vu, only this time, he didn't have Tari's patience to fall back on. The new girl wasn't here to mother him. She wasn't fighting to fix him, she had options. And when a man's only value is how much he drains people, it's only a matter of time before they unplug the cord. She thought losing him would break her. But healing turned her into someone he could never reach again. Tari wasn't trying to glow up. She just wanted peace. But peace has a way of making a woman look expensive. She got promoted. Took a solo trip to Ghana. Started laughing again, the full-belly kind. Her skin cleared. Her eyes steadied. She began walking into rooms like she belonged there. Because for the first time in years, she did. The version of her that was willing to suffer for love, she buried her quietly. No funeral. No eulogy. Just a gentle goodbye. Her old friends noticed. Her DMs started filling up. Even strangers commented on how happy she looked. But Tari wasn't focused on being wanted. She was focused on being whole. Healing didn't make her bitter. It made her wise. She no longer believed that love had to come with wounds. And when John tried to slide back in, a weak, "Hey, just checking on you," she didn't even open it. Some messages don't deserve replies. Some lessons don't get second chances. She didn't drag him online. She didn't cry for pity. She just moved on. And that was louder than anything he could have handled. Tari never posted a revenge quote. Never subtweeted. Never hinted. She just became unreachable. Emotionally. Mentally. Spiritually. The girl who once begged for his attention now didn't even remember his birthday. And that silence, it started to haunt John. He watched her from a burner account. Saw the wins, the joy, the softness returning to her. The fact that she never addressed him directly, never even acknowledged his existence, made it worse. Like he wasn't even worth her resentment. People started whispering. Some asked, "What really happened between you and Tari?" He'd shrug, deflect, joke. But the truth was, she had rewritten the narrative without saying a word. Her peace was her PR. Her joy, her clapback. And slowly, the people who once pitted him now pitted her for ever loving him in the first place. That kind of dignity, it can't be bought. It's earned. And John had already spent all his credit. You can lie for months. But the truth, it doesn't expire. It started with a voice note, one he didn't know would leak. John had been ranting to a friend, mocking how Tari funded my whole life, and still expected a ring. He thought it was private, but screenshots have wings. The audio made it to a group chat, then to a page, then to the timeline. And within hours, the internet dragged him by the remains of his dignity. You mean this guy was living rent-free and still ungrateful? The comments weren't kind. And just like that, the version of events he'd been feeding people, the "she was too dramatic" narrative, shattered. His new girl dumped him that night. Sponsors pulled their influencer collab. He became a cautionary tale. Meanwhile, Tari didn't post a thing. Didn't retweet. Didn't gloat. She just went to dinner with friends, smiled for the camera, and lived. Because when you tell the truth to yourself early, you don't have to explain it to anyone later. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And nothing feels colder than that. It happened by accident. A random art gallery opening in Lekki. She was laughing with friends, holding a glass of wine, when she turned and saw him. John. Same slouched posture. Same fake smile. He looked like a boy playing grown-up. For a second, time froze. Would it sting? Would her chest tighten? No. She blinked, smiled, and turned away. John saw her too. But something in her eyes unsettled him. Not anger, not even pride. Just nothing. Like he was a stranger at a bus stop. And that broke him more than any insult ever could. She didn't rush to hide. She didn't fumble. She stood taller, laughed louder. And for the first time he realized. She had healed. Without permission. Without apology. Without him. Some people leave you and level up. Others stay stuck where they left themselves. Tari didn't just survive, she bloomed. By the end of the year, she launched her own brand. Started speaking at women's events. Her face was on flyers. Her name on lips. She'd turned her pain into purpose, not as a trauma story, but as proof. Proof that a woman who chooses herself becomes unstoppable. And John? Still tweeting vague quotes. Still couch surfing. Still blaming the world for what he never became. He watched from the shadows, using fake accounts to track her milestones. The girl who once begged for his time now had no space for him in her world. His name no longer meant anything in rooms that mattered. And slowly, the truth set in. He didn't lose her to another man. He lost her to the version of herself he never supported. And no apology could rewind that kind of growth. Healing isn't about revenge. It's about not needing it anymore. Tari never said, "I won." Because there was no scoreboard. No game left to play. She didn't move on to prove anything. She just moved forward. And that's the difference. Her healing wasn't loud. It was daily. Quiet. Gritty. It happened in therapy rooms, journal pages, solo breakfasts, and nights where the tears came anyway. But she didn't stay stuck. She didn't wait for closure. She became it. People asked if she would ever forgive him. She shrugged. "I don't hate him. I just don't know him anymore." That was her peace, not forgetting the past, but removing its power. She still remembered who she used to be with him, but she no longer mourned her. She had walked away from survival and into self-respect. You don't always get punished for wasting good people. Sometimes, you just live long enough to realize you'll never find better. John still tells the story, still tries to twist it. She changed, got proud. No, she grew. He just stayed the same. And that's what haunts him the most. Every woman he dates now comes with standards, boundaries, expectations. They remind him of Tari until he remembers they're not her. Because what made her special wasn't just her love. It was her patience, her belief, her commitment. And that version of her, he broke it. Now he spends his days chasing versions of what he once had, never realizing. The real punishment is memory. And the deepest regret is knowing you were the villain in someone's becoming. Tari never looked back. And he'll spend the rest of his life trying to forget why she had to.